all other things being equal, Māori are 11% more likely to be prosecuted than New Zealand Europeans. I mean, that would at the very least, from the outside, suggest a degree of institutional racism might exist within the organisation.
Look, in my 30 years of policing, Jack, I have not personally seen an attitude.
He's demonstrating he doesn't understand what institutional racism is. Institutional racism is not individualised. I've never seen it. It's a very different thing. And it's also obviously about the results that institution can be counted on.
Toward Māori that I am concerned about in terms of values. It's, you know, our commitment to Māori and the tree is one of our values. We've worked with Māori for over 30 years, started by former Commissioner Peter Doon. It remains a huge priority, not just for police, but for Māori communities.
So why does that discrepancy exist?
Well, look, that piece of work, no doubt. I've worked very closely with Sir Kim Workman over the years. We have a good working...
This was a report done, spearheaded by Sir Kim Workman. That's the report they're talking about.
Relationship together. Where there are opportunities for us to think and work together better, identify new opportunities, we will do that. I mean, that's the open mind. I want us to go...
So the question is, though, why does that discrepancy exist?
I can't explain that, Jack. I can't explain that.
You said emphatically that institutional racism doesn't exist within the institution. I brought you that number from Sir Kim Workman. I mean, in September last year, Stuff Analysis compared rates of cannabis use to rates of cannabis prosecution. Of course, discretion applies for police here. More Pākehā used cannabis, but more Māori were charged with cannabis offences.
There we go. Game over. Like, that's game over. Now, the other thing, which we're not bringing it up tonight, but we talked about last week, is what they're saying is more Māori are arrested, but actually then in the court system, more Māori are convicted than non-Māori for doing the same thing. That's what the research says. So actually, I don't know whether it's better for him to stay neutral-ish on this. It's not better, because anyone with half a brain cell can see that the stat that Jack just gave out unequivocally proves the exact definition of institutional racism. Within the institution, they treat brown people harsher than white people. Institutional racism. Simple as that. Do you want to say anything before I hit play again, Chewie?
Yeah, I know you did a lot of work to cut this down to a shorter patch. I can actually cut it down even further. Do you think there's institutional racism in the New Zealand police? Yes. You could just put the yes somewhere from ours, and that's what we could have done. His lack of understanding on this question is damning. It's devastating. It's someone in his role just distilled this down to, well, I never saw any racism when I was a cop.
But you're giving him credit or the grace of not understanding, because the alternative is he does understand but denies anyway. There's two possibilities here, and neither are okay.
Studies. There's so much research that has gone into this. The police have acknowledged it in the past that they need to do more work. This was his opportunity to go, yes, there is, and we're working really hard to fix it, and this is what we're doing. Missed opportunity. Absolutely missed. And the fact that he's gone down this path, I will remember.
All right, we'll keep going.
To rates of cannabis prosecution, of course, discretion applies for police here. More Pākehā used cannabis, but more Māori were charged with cannabis offences. Why would that be?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm hopeful of is that we've also considered alternative resolutions to many of the situations frontline staff deal with. So Te Pairanga is one example of that. So when it comes to things like cannabis, and this is not about Māori, it's not about Pākehā exclusively.
Well, it is
it's about,
because Māori are being charged more, but Pākehā are using more.
Yes, look, I appreciate the statistics.
Are you open-minded enough?
There was something else that he said which I cut out of the conversation, which is sometimes we'll get it wrong. And in my notes, I wrote down, and Māori pay the price. That seems to be pretty evident, that sometimes we will get it wrong, and the people who feel the error that police will make will disproportionately be Māori over everybody else.
Are you open-minded enough to accept, though, when you reflect on that data, that maybe you could be wrong about institutionalised racism within the organisation?
No, as I say, of 30 years of policing, I have not personally seen any example of that.
The thing is, it's institutionalised, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not these one-off things. It's across the entire system. That's the kind of nature of it.
Yeah, look, I want to stay focused on the positive. I want to keep working really, really hard. We have a lot of things underway right now to strengthen our understanding of cultural competency across a whole lot of different cultures in New Zealand. There's a lot to be proud of. The statistics, as I say, they are what they are. That says to me, well, we've got to keep thinking about this. But in terms of, you talk about institutional issues, no, I will continue to emphatically deny that.
Okay. Jack needs to dumb this down a little bit more. Do you recognise that this is a coffee cup and that it is red? Yes.
Could be a teacup.
I've seen the coffee cup, and so I acknowledge its existence. Okay. Does the coffee cup still exist? No, I can't see it. That seems from one of our top cops. If I can't see it personally with my eyes, it doesn't exist. Is a fucking weird hill to die on, rather than go, yes, we've identified a problem, we're working to remove that problem.
I wonder, I mean, like when you hear some of those answers, and people are saying in the chat as well, there is an element of the PR spin of Mark Mitchell. You can kind of hear it in his tone. I mean,
it's cop talk, right? They all talk the same. Like, and I love cop talk when they're having a press conference and you're like, listen to the old cop talk. They all talk the same. Police 10-7, all of that sort of stuff. But this is just shocking. Like, you can't have the political appointment aspect of this job and just regress into, I never did a racism, and neither did any of the blokes that I worked with, so therefore it doesn't happen. And these statistics that you're talking about, Jack, your fucking magical statistics that are based on nothing, don't mean anything, because I'm not going to cop to doing a racism. When everything points to Māori, Pacific Islanders get caught more, get charged more, get stiffer sentences and consequences for the same crimes.
Yeah. That's the important part.
What is that? Like, you can look, like, it's a hard question for the police. Like, we have a problem with systemic racism. Why is that? Is that because we more heavily police poorer areas, and the people that live in poorer areas tend to be Māori and Pacific Islanders? So then you get you soak in an attitude that all you're dealing with is Māori and Pacific Islanders, so they must all be like that. Or maybe it's because police's interactions with this community, because they can't trust them, because they're so much more frequent than the rest of the population does, they're fucking sick of it, and they react badly. And so the cuffs come out and the pepper spray comes out and all of this sort of stuff. Like, these are hard questions. I don't have answers for them. Do you need to cycle cops through different areas more? I don't know. Do we need more people from these communities to be in the police? That was seen as an answer. And the police did a lot of work on that in the mid-90s to mid-2000s and probably onwards, of going, we need more Māori, we need more Pacific Islanders, we need more Asian staff, and that sort of thing. We need the police to represent society. That seems to have gone away a little bit.
I was thinking that exact thing, that the police commissioner talking about his past, that there was him and Mark Mitchell and 40 other white guys. We never saw any racism anywhere.
Yeah.
So, Yeah,
we just knew what part of Auckland to go to when our arrest quota was a bit light.